Malibu Moon is a horse you can believe in. The reason I love Malibu Moon is that he has produced winners and stakes winners at every level. In our opinion, the best stallion in Kentucky was AP Indy, and he is AP Indy's best son at stud.
We're getting out of the gate with our in-studio handicappers, Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, and of course we're going to start with our DRF.com formulator race of the day, the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks for 3-year-old fillies. Let's take a look at the field. Our Kentucky Oaks coverage is presented by Spendthrift, the breeder's farm. We've got a big, bulky field for the Kentucky Oaks. And gentlemen, Paradise Woods, she's the story of this race. A lot of folks believe that she is the heir apparent to Beholder in the Dick Mandela barn. Matt, I know you were blown away by Paradise Woods' most recent performance. Just a top-notch effort in the Santa Anita Oaks.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if she runs anything close to that, she's just better than these fillies. I haven't been blown away by any of the 3-year-old fillies this year, maybe with the exception of Unique Bella. Unique Bella goes to the sidelines. This filly shows up kind of out of nowhere. And you see this performance right now. She's lengthening. The thing that I like most about it, the field that she beat, far and away the best field any of these other fillies has ever faced, and she buried them for fun. There are only two things that are kind of holding me back a little bit from just saying this is a complete lock. One, the weather. Sounds like it's going to be a little bit wet. She's never seen a wet track in her life. And I don't love that she's breaking inside of some of the other speeds. I kind of feel like Flavien Prat has to send her. That being said, if she's as good as I think she is, shouldn't be a problem.
What we did see, though, from her sprint win, the race that you and I were just so taken with, and it kind of put her on our radar, is that she doesn't seem to mind being in and among horses. She's a real professional, even with her relative inexperience. Mike, she ran a 107 Beyer speed figure in the Santa Anita Oaks. You can argue that none of these fillies will ever run a 107 Beyer.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that if she runs a 107 on Friday, she'll probably win. We'll see if she can do it. It's a funny situation because, you know, it is one of those things where you feel like as impressive as she was last time, she also just got absolutely loose on the lead in that race and then sprinted away from that field. That trip probably not available to her in this race. I don't know that she needs it. However, we'll see if she winds up needing it or not. I don't think it's an unreasonable position in this race to say, you know what, she's the best 3-year-old filly in this race and she's just going to win. I do sort of want to use some other horses though, and have some other horses, and even have some other horses as A's and multi-race wagers, because I don't know that she's an absolute slam dunk in the Oaks.
Matt, you've always been a big fan of Mopatism, who finished 4th in the Santa Anita Oaks. Just no match on that afternoon for Paradise Woods. Can she turn the tables?
I can't envision any scenario where it happens. Maybe if you want to just say a wet track is something that can kind of be the equalizer, but boy, she was well beaten in there. If I'm taking anybody out of the Santa Anita Oaks other than Paradise Woods, it's going to be Abel Tasman.
Mike, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this year's Kentucky Oaks, and we have Paradise Woods outright on the lead. Do you see that situation unfolding?
It's going to be very interesting to see what Flavien Prat does in this race. She is drawn down towards the inside, and obviously she has just a ton of natural speed, so she is going to be forward. Whether she's just, you know, right up sending for the front in this race, I don't know. But I think it, you know, their hand is at least a little bit forced from post 4. She's got to come out of there running. She'll get forward in this race, and then we'll see what happens from there.
A red-hot filly invades from New York, Matt. That's the number 10, Miss Sky Warrior. She has won her last 5 races, but going into her most recent start, the Gazelle, we're going to take a look at that race right now. She hadn't run that fast race. Bingo, she ran fast in the Gazelle.
She certainly did. She put the boots to this field, and I guess that's the only thing that's holding me back from looking at her and saying she's some major player. I'm not suggesting that she can't win, but look at the horses that she was beating. Somehow Lockdown runs second. It looks like she's ready to fall down there in the stretch. Lockdown also shows up here in the Kentucky Oaks. Miss Sky Warrior, it's hard to argue with horses that all they do is go out and win. That's what this filly does, Kelly Breen. She's in good hands. I really don't have any knocks other than I just don't think she's as good as Paradise Woods.
2 wins now at this 9-furlong distance for Miss Sky Warrior. Mike, was that market improvement due to just a lightly raced filly figuring it out and peaking at the right time? Or was that track was kind to speed? We saw there wasn't a lot of running in the back. They basically ran 1, 2, 3 around the track. Did that track kind of propel her to that effort?
That's what bothers me about her, is just that was Wood Day, obviously, and it just felt like that was just one of those cars at Ashland where you had to be forward in your races, and she certainly was that. And then it helped that she was probably just better than those horses as well. Boy, listen, she can run another 94, maybe even take a small step forward. She's right in the thick of this thing. We'll see if she can do it. I do think she's a good horse, Dan. She has, I wanted to ask you this because she reminds me an awful lot of another horse who came into the Oaks last year from New York. in Lewis Bay, who I never was truly convinced she wanted to go 9 furlongs, but she came into the Oaks with 2 9-furlong wins, and then it didn't work out for her on Oaks Day. I wonder, this horse has a little bit of that look to me.
It's an interesting point. It might come down to the pace situation. The pace projector has her sitting second off of Paradise Woods. It could be a daunting task to run down Paradise Woods and then hold off the closers, but you can't knock what she's done for Kelly Breen. Matt, what about Lockdown? Beautiful pedigree. She is a full sister to Close Hatches, but you saw that race. She was on her hands and knees for the last quarter of a mile. It does say something that Bill Mott trudges on with her.
Yeah, I wonder if it's almost a matter of, Mott had the highly thought of Elate coming into a spot like this, and she just hasn't panned out thus far as a 3-year-old. I wonder if Lockdown just kind of inherits this position by default, and we've kind of talked about it all year long. The 3-year-old fillies, it took a long time for anyone to really assert themselves as a horse to beat or a horse to be reckoned with. I wonder if really you get down past 5 or 6, boy, this field is just kind of hungry.
Let's talk about a horse with winning experience at Churchill Downs, and that's the queen of the Crescent City, the number 7 Farrell, who's just dominated the 3-year-old filly division down at the fairgrounds in New Orleans. Let's watch Farrell just win very, very easily in the Fairgrounds Oaks.
I thought that she ran great in this race, guys. I don't know. She got it. Listen, she got a perfect trip in this race, just sort of setting up in that 3-wide tracking trip, but as soon as Cheney Hill asked her, and he waited to ask her until they got up to the top of the stretch, I don't know, she won this race pretty convincingly. I'm a little concerned about a little more distance for this horse. She keeps winning her races clear, but I do sort of wonder how far she wants to go.
Gets a little bit goofy with her lead changes in the stretch, Matt, but she's just dominated that competition. She's won at Churchill. She handles a wet track, which could be very, very key considering the weather forecast for Louisville on Oaks Day, and she's got wonderful tactical speed.
Yeah, she really does, and I like that in that most recent start. She showed that she didn't absolutely have to have the lead. I'm agreeing with Mike. I don't know how far she ultimately wants to go. Maybe this is going to be a little bit far, but the experience at Churchill is good. The wet track experience, certainly a positive. I just don't know what she's been facing down in Louisiana.
A good pace could work into the hooves of the number 13 Abel Tasman, Grade 1 stakes winner of the Starlet last year at Los Alamitos, and we're going to watch that race now. She is a big, good-bodied filly who had the misfortune to catch the unfortunately sidelined Unique Bella in the Grade 2 Santa Isabel, and then Paradise Woods last time out in the Santa Anita Oaks. But Bob Baffert's putting blinkers on, Matt, and I wonder if getting away from those hard and speed-friendly tracks at Santa Anita, maybe she'll appreciate getting away from there.
And maybe she'll appreciate some pace in front of her this time around, too. It's also worth noting this is going to be the second time going out for Baffert, and the blinkers go on this time. Baffert probably needed to figure her out a little bit just as much as she needed to figure him out. Maybe the blinkers going on sharpens her up a little bit, makes her a little bit closer maybe during the course of the running rather than have to come from 150 out of it.
It does appear she's going to get a good pace, Mike. That Timeform US pace projector projects it to be fast. I know she was beating a country mile last time out. I think she's going to run a whole lot better here.
Yeah, maybe she will. We'll see. It's interesting. For some reason, I don't love that they're putting blinkers on her in here, but we'll see what happens and whether that maybe it turns out to be a good move. I just don't love seeing that. If you just look at her on paper, I think she's obviously a prime contender in this race, and she might catch a great setup. I don't know, Dan. I didn't love her second to Paradise Woods last time. I didn't even love her second to Unique Bella a couple starts back. I'm not really sold on this horse, and as one of the shorter prices, I'm probably going to try and beat her.
Parade of good fillies continues. This one coming up from Gulfstream Park. It's Salty, winner of the Gulfstream Park Oaks. She has done really nothing wrong in her short career. Mike, does this post position bother you? She is stuck way outside.
I don't love post 14 for this filly. I do think she's pretty talented, though, and I particularly liked her Gulfstream Park Oaks last time. The first time they stretched her out around 2 turns. This field isn't great, and the race doesn't come back super fast either. I just like the way that she did it, Dan, if only because the pace was pretty solid early, and it's not like Salty sat this thing out and then just made one run from the top of the stretch. She got going early on the back stretch, and she carried her run a long way in this race, took this thing over, and kept going through the stretch. That performance suggests to me that she's pretty good.
A little bit of a step up in class for her, Matt. She's going to be facing Tequilita and Jordan's Henny again. Those two are really nice fillies, but I'm not sure they're of the level of Paradise Woods, Miss Sky Warrior, Farrell, etc.
Yeah, easily the toughest class test of her life, but considering she's so lightly raced, she really hasn't done anything wrong thus far. 2 turns, that's not an issue for her. And kind of like Mike said, the fact that she can make up ground at Gulfstream Park, where that's not the easiest place to be coming from well off the pace, I think that bodes well for her. Again, it comes down to ultimately, do you think she is this good? Do you think she can hang with the big girls?
Jordan's Henny's a cool little horse that always seems to outrun her odds. Tequilita's really done nothing wrong, but they have to run faster from a buyer speed figure standpoint, as does Vexatious, Mike. And Vexatious has been put in some pretty tough spots, but I think she's run sneaky well. We're going to see her running third against the boys 3 starts back, but she's come back and has run just fine in 2 preps. And what I like about her, she's shipped all over the place. She doesn't need her, bring her racetrack with her.
Yeah, and she's going to be a great price in this race, too. And I think she has a lot of upside. This race, she was never really competitive. This was a tough spot for her, obviously. She also didn't get a great trip in this race either. I thought she did well to be third in this race. And then I thought, listen, no match for Farrell 2 starts back. She ran fine, but not great. I thought that she ran sneaky well last time. That trip wasn't perfect for her last time at Oaklawn Park, and I think she would have been a lot closer at the finish if she could have gotten a more comfortable trip in that race. To me, she's a horse I'm using at a price in this race.
Matt, if you believe pedigree equals potential, boy, she's a full sister to Destin and Creative Cause. Her dam on the apple blossom.
Yeah, like you say, pedigree. She's got it in spades. I guess the thing for me, I was a little bit disappointed with the Fairgrounds race. I liked her in there, and she just was a little bit flat. Then she ran at Oaklawn. You wondered. I mean, this is going to be 3 races in the course of 5 weeks for still a lightly raced horse, which normally I don't think that would be a big deal. But in this day and age, that's absurd. We have horses that don't run 4 times in a year. She's run 3 times in a month. If you believe she's going to take that step forward, she does. She has all the sort of pedigree and the potential that would suggest she could be a major horse. She's yet to put it together. Maybe Saturday's or Friday's the day.
Sailor's Valentine upset the apple cart in the Ashland. Keeneland's prep to the Kentucky Oaks. Matt, we're going to take a look at that race right now. She was up close to the pace on a day where it seemed like you needed to be close.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. The interesting thing is here, they're going to bounce off of each other right now. And for me, I like to see that the horse is a little bit battle-hardened. She doesn't mind kind of throwing it down a little bit. I'm glad we are looking at this replay, though, because Daddy's Little Darling, the horse that comes from back, let's say the back third of the field, she comes and makes a good move toward the end, just runs second. I feel like if I want anybody out of that field, it's going to be Daddy's Little Darling.
Matt, I think you'd agree. Daddy's Little Darling reminds me a lot of Steve Asmussen's Looking at Lee, who's going to run in the Kentucky Derby. You know, she doesn't have a lot of speed, but she seems to run every time, and she was against the grain of the track last time out.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like you say, she's just going to continue to come on, and it's worth noting the difference between that run most recently at Keeneland and this run Friday afternoon at Churchill. You're going to get an extra 1/16 of a mile to work with. I think that works for Daddy's Little Darling.
Concern, Mike, is that race has come back a little slow.
Yeah, and she hasn't necessarily run a fast race yet either, but I think she fits this race really well because she should have some pace to run at, and if nothing else, she runs every time in that Ashland. I mean, not only was that sort of a speed favoring track, I mean, they walked on the lead in there. To me, she had no chance to win and did well to be second in there. She's a great underneath you this race, especially if she's a big price.
Pick time for the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks. Our coverage presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm. Matt, you really think she could be special, this Paradise Woods?
Yeah, you know, like I said at the top, I'm a little bit concerned about the weather because she's never seen a wet track, and I also don't love being the sort of speed nearest the rail where they just kind of have to go on with her. But if she's as good as I really think she is, none of that should matter. I still think she goes out, gets the job done at a short number.
Mike, you're going against Paradise Woods, but you respect her immensely.
Yeah, there's no way for me to toss her out. This is not one of those short price favorites that I'm way against. I think she's way the horse to beat her. I think she's very good. I'm going to try and beat her with Salty, though. I really like Salty's last race at Gulfstream.
It is not exactly the curse of Apollo, but no 3-year-old filly has won the Kentucky Oaks without juvenile experience since the late 70s. Maybe that'll work against horses like Paradise Woods and Salty. Miss Sky Warrior, I know that she's probably going to give a good, honest effort. Heck, that's what she gives every single time. She should be in a nice spot turning into the stretch. I'm hoping to get 5-1 or so for trainer Kelly Breen. 10-4, 13-14 for me in the Kentucky Oaks.